As we march through October, looking back at October 11th through the 15th, as we approach October 20th, this is recorded on October 19th. So we're going to take a look at the week of October 18th to the 22nd to look forward to the stride through October 25th to the 29th as we approach November and some earnings calls. We'll kind of see what happens in the weeks ahead. News in the media: Colin Powell, former Secretary of State, has died of complications from COVID-19. He was 84. From what I heard, he also had Parkinson's. He also had some other things. News in the media: speculation in crypto, the market on October 19, 2021. Be careful of all the headlines that come across. Media hype definitely influences things. We're still pushing bio. They're still looking at bringing out booster shots, everything. So depending on where you fall on the vaccinated, unvaccinated, put you in the category of hype on maybe how you get influenced on the stocks and the stocks that you get into. It's going to definitely affect infrastructure bills coming up. Where we go as far as the oil. Oil's up, the dollar's down. What country you're in, where you're located at. All these stocks, they're all influenced on a beta rate by different headlines. The headlines can read all kinds of stuff. WTI crude, 83.22. When you look at natural gas, it was down a little bit. But we're definitely shipping gas over to other countries. When we look at heating oil, the Brent crude, right now, you look at the coal ships that are sent out where, China might not be accepting coal from a specific country. And we look at India, different places that rely on coal heavily. There's a big factor to weigh into the rolling blackouts, things that might occur this winter. Make sure you're doing your research as far as your state goes, your country goes, your county goes, your own grid. Make sure you're staying up to date on where you're at as far as your power sources and where they come from, what might increase or decrease in the future in your area. When we look at the dollar definitely has been up and down throughout the year. Right now, we're holding in that 90 range, but we're still not back for a dollar to have a true dollar value. When we look back, though, at a 30-year graph, we can see where at one time the dollar was up there and the dollar was actually worth more than a dollar. Since it dropped down below the 80-cent mark, and you look back towards the housing crash, you look at 2008, we came through to like 2012. Maybe it came up some, but it's never been back to being a true dollar for a while. We've held severely under the dollar mark, and we can either rise back up to being a true dollar, or we can fall down. On a prediction scale, we can look at the dollar. When we look at all the stimulus and put it in perspective, and we look at dilution, is the reduction in shareholders' equity positions due to the issuance or creation of new share. Dilution also reduces a company's earnings per share. EPS, which can have a negative impact on share price. So if we looked at dilution is the reduction in people's equity positions, which is due to the issuance and creation of more money and more dollars being printed. The dilution also reduces the people's earnings per share, which can have a negative impact on people's share price. Will the dollar fall in 2022? Well, we're going to see inflation rise. We're going to see prices of goods go up, housing go up, rent, mortgages. So when we look at things, we're taking a look at TGRO and their outstanding shares when they update it. The difference is they added 2.3 billion from what I saw from September to October. When we look at TGRO and we look at that dilution is the reduction in shareholders' equity positions, we've seen them go up to 001 and then they came back down. Then they're at 005 today. They're holding around 006. A lot of people aren't selling underneath. They're not dropping farther, but they're holding a steady line at 0005 to 0006. When we look at the 2.3 billion, and if we broke it down, in common stock held, it's 171 million for corporations. Most of it's going to public, and then there's a lot of trade back and forth. Today we kind of saw a low day, but on high volumes and on average volumes, we're seeing around 500 million traded on TGRO. We've seen it slow down in the last couple days, where on 10/13/21 we had over $1 billion in volume. They headed up towards the 0007. For a second, we thought they were going towards that 0008, but when you look at more shares being released and dilution in a company, it kind of creates that foothold where on 10/14 they were at 0007. On 10/14 their volume was 400 million. Right now I put a price target at 0025 for TGRO. We might not get there until 2022. It's going to take a while. They've been holding a bottom around 0005. At the same time, we haven't seen a bottom at 0003 yet. So will TGRO eventually fall down farther, or will they rise up? We are still waiting on news as far as things go with TGRO, but they're slowly tearing up when we look at their graph. Looking at a 240-minute graph, we can see how they're staircasing up slowly. I would like to think in the positive sense that they're heading and eventually they can hold from 0005 and raise up and start holding at 0007 and then continue to 8 and 9. On 10/18/21, TGRO, their volume over 200 million moved. They're at 0007 to 0005, still holding in that range strong. Right now, conservatively, I would say with a bid at 0005, they're staying around 0006, with the ask at 0007. You're slowly starting to see that move up, where right now, you can definitely see that they can break through that 0006 and stay above it, then maybe they'll head to it towards the 001. But we need some quarterlies in. We need to see on TGRO them actually show some income. Right now we need some hard assets, and we need to see what the enterprise value really is of this company. When you look at their president and CEO, he's older, he's very well seasoned, but is he gonna actually produce in the long run? We're all hoping he is, and we're all hoping that this isn't gonna be a dump stock, and when a ton of people are stuck with it. I see where quite a few people are buying. They need some big whales in it. On a watch list, a new launch was Bitcoin Stock Etf. Ticker is on E-Trade for BITO. ProShares Bitcoin Strategy ETF came out at $40. This is an interesting thing to watch. Maybe if you're invested in Bitcoin, you might want to get invested in this. When you look at long shots to the moon, ASDN, possible 10 times play. Right now, they're holding pretty low. They're under the $2 mark. I'd say now's the time to buy in. I definitely see by the end of the year where they could be at $3. It's because Parsec is the first SPAC sponsored by ASDN. When we look at SPAC, Special Purpose Acquisition Companies, or SPACs, are non-operating publicly listed companies whose purpose is to identify and purchase a private company, allowing the acquisition target to have publicly listed stock. Parsec closes its upsized initial public offering of 8.625 million units at the price of $10 per unit. So I put a price target for ASDN at $10. This was on October 7th, 2021. It takes 2 years or 18 months. So you're looking at October of 2022 in a year, or April of 2023 in 18 months, or October of 2023 would be a 2-year mark. That's going to take some time for ASDN to show full fruition. ASDN, in my opinion, is a buy now. I definitely think that by February of 2022 and by June, July, you get through the Russell Index, the Russell 3000, do some homework on that and the impact it has on the stock market. Maybe we can see ASDN be back at $7. ASDN is an EV tech, and right now, if sales start, you could definitely see the stock rise. CEI is one that could be a 4 times play. They're holding under $2, but it's one that eventually I could see being at $7 as well. With CEI, they're a long hold, but possibly a 10 times or 100 times play by 2023, 2024. Once all the things and subsidiaries come to fruition on them, you might see something come out of this stock. Once again, it's a long hold stock. WTII, Water Technology International Incorporated, they're definitely at a good buy rate. Could be a 10 times play. You could definitely see them go up in the future. They could definitely get to 10 cents into $1. They get some big companies, get into oil. By 2024, I would say PT on this is at $1. Right now, they're holding low, but you're going to have to get them through 2022 and 2023. With water shortages, the drought, water generators, and related products, the AWG in the United States, its AWG produces drinking water from humidity in the atmosphere, as well as provides air conditioning during the use. Pandemic, water, the water going for oxygen. It's a long, big play, but WTII might pay off. When we look at a Shell Lotto ticket, you have Blue Water Global. Is it dead or still alive? I saw this merger with Klaus Therapeutics, but then on other ones, I also saw where it was BLUW. So is it the same company or not? It's kind of confusing. So make sure you do your due diligence, make sure you do your research. But in Q3 of 2021, we'll complete the merger with Klaus. In this one, it says BLUU. If this is true, those that held the stock may see something come to fruition on that lateral ticket. On 10/15/21, we looked at AMLH. They shot up to 0074. 10/19/21, open entry point, AMLH 0055. We know it could run to a 0074, so could it run again at any time? You might see some money come out of this. This is a possible gainer, could possibly double up in the future. When we take a look at TNXP, they've been on the rise since 10/12/21. TNXP, they were at 55 cents. 10/14, we look at their graph, moving up to 58 cents. They definitely have some peaks and valleys, but they're showing where they're starting to tear up. The low before the run on TNXP was right under 55 cents. Pretty good entry point. Entry point is still underneath 60 is still good. And I'd say if you're getting in underneath 63 cents, you can still see something good come out of TNXP. On TNXP, setting a price target, I set a price target at $1 where eventually they'll double up with inflation going into 2022, 2023. And with tapping pharmaceuticals, they get into booster shots, they might have a chance. With TNXP, on 10/19, they were right around that 60 cent mark. We look at earnings for TNXP. Their expected earnings are on November 7th. So looking at 11/7, maybe we'll see something come out of the stock. TNXP as a price target, right now, I think they're a good entry point still under the 63 cents. And being underneath that $1, you still have a good chance to see them rise. Where going into the future, we want to see them get back to that $4.88 mark. It may take some time. TNXP, when we look at an outlook for them, we can see where they went through 2019, 2020, and 2021. I'd say for 2022, we're shooting for $2.60 to be realistic. You could see a 5 times play though by 2022. TNXP is a lotto ticket. Maybe by 2025, we could see them be back up and they could be competing with other stocks in their market tree. Where TNXP crashed, it was a PTSD failure. They had causes, there's reasons why, and they pulled out. But with the COVID pandemic, they might rebound. Like I said, they might get into the booster shots. And that just gives a new outlook looking at the booster shots. Central nervous system conditions, and as of 2020, TNXP was also pursuing vaccines for COVID-19 and biodefense projects. It might be a second chance at glory in 2022. They also focus on fibromyalgia. So they're more than a one-trick pony at this point. With nothing yet in income, Tonix Pharmaceuticals doesn't have any revenue. If they do have revenue, you could definitely see the stock boost up. The big question is when. FDA approval, and will they make it? So it's all that when. AZN is a competing stock in bio with them. Maybe you can see Tonix Pharmaceuticals become a $60 stock like AZN for a potential price. AZN is definitely on a nice climb up. They're definitely a stock to check out since 2017, and they continue to rise each year. Johnson & Johnson is another one. They have some valleys, they have some peaks, but they're a competing stock that keeps rising. With Johnson & Johnson, you might see them become a $200 stock in 2022. When you look at risk tolerance, it's key. The longs, it's all about your temperance. If they pop, it could be big money. On 10/11/21, we take a look at Vaxart. Vaxart has been holding right underneath that $7 mark if you catch them just right. Under $12 is a good entry point on Vaxart. I definitely still see them being a good solid $15 stock, and they could head towards that $24 mark in 2022 with inflation. I would put their new bottom and their new bottom average around $7. When we look at range and ideal entry points, I would say right now you'll still do good on Vaxart if you're entering under the $9.80 mark. So I put a price target on them for the future going into 2022 at the end of the year of 2021 at $10. On 12/15/21, we still saw the solid entry point of $7 for Vaxart. On 10/19/21, they were still underneath the $7. So it's still a good time to buy in on VXRT. Last week, a big double up was GWH. We saw them double up, and that was a new high for them. And they doubled up, and we're seeing some of these stocks just shoot up out of nowhere. 10/11/21, we looked at Plug Power and looked at Fuel Cell. Both of them since have been on the rise. A new low around $25. I did a video on Plug. You can go back and check that out. When we look at Plug Power and we look at hydrogen, we look at fuel, we look at the infrastructure, they definitely have a chance to clear and come back to that $75 peak at one time. Right now, their new low around 25, they keep raising up. Where I put their resistance coming up now around 28, and now they're setting that next bar around 31. I would say with potential they have some resistance barriers to go through, but Plug Power is still a solid investment. I would say their new bar target is $31 right now to stay above. If they can keep above $31, we can see them shoot between this 31 and 34 gap. And if they stay consistent, they can rise up above and stay above 35. When we look at potential for Plug, I would say for 2022, I would put them at $50. Right now, I would put a conservative PT as staying above 34. With Plug Power, we can see where they came to 32.77 from the 27, and Fuel Cell came from around the $6 range to the $8 range. So we can see where Plugs went up $5 and Fuel Cells went up 2 on 10/19. They've made a pretty good leap over the last week. When we look at SPCE over a week, on 10/11/2021, they were holding around the $23 mark. And then we saw a drop on 10/15 where they went to $20. On 10/19, buy the dip. It's all about entry point. SPCE went to 1932. It's all about the next level, 2022 to 2025 in your outlook. It's all about mindset. Wealth is knowledge. Do your DD. You only owe it to yourself. Disclaimer note, I'm only responsible for what I say, not for what you understand. I'm not a stock advisor, I'm not a financial analysis, I'm not a financial broker. I'm just a blue-collar worker trying to pay information forward to lead people in the right direction so they can do more homework for themselves and check into these stocks a little bit more that they're investing in. TNNK, Tiki Tankers. When we look at Stone Peak to acquire Tiki or TK, it could possibly be a good long hold position. It's a $6.2 billion transaction with a key price target of $17. Enterprise value of TNK, $6.2 billion. When we look at a 1 year growth, we can definitely see TNK by 2022 being back at that $17. So DD, do your homework. Stone Peak Infrastructure Partners, private equity firm in New York City. What they are about, they invest in what they believe is the low-risk diversified infrastructure of assets with downside protection and favorable cash flow prices, or favorable cash flow profiles. So we look at low risk, diversified assets. So we're looking at hard assets. With Stone Peak, they're focused in North America. So if you're looking at renewables, transportation, power, energy, utility, water, communications, they're into anything that is a hard asset, and they're in the leading market. Factor in the Great Reset with leading market positions primarily in sectors such as energy, power, and renewables, transportation, utilities, water, and communication. We look at climate change. 6.2 billion, 1/6 is TNK. We look at Stone Peak's 37 billion in assets. So solid companies, hard assets. Up-to-date ships with TNK. They operate many vessels. And when we look at energy, tech, and efficiency, TNK is on the top of the list. Time investment, true potential, TNK put it in. It's a new era and a transformation. When we look at the road ahead, when we look at a reset, going back to 2009, we're kind of in a repeating pattern. So when we look at oil prices, we're above that where they were in 2010. We're back above that $80 mark. So in 2022, 2023, we could definitely see them head towards that $100 in oil per barrel. 1 barrel is equal to 42 gallons. The current price of WTI crude oil as October 5th, 2021 was at 78. 10/15, they're above 80. 2021 to now, then we look at 2041 to 2051 alternative fuels. There are 1.65 trillion barrels of proven oil reserves in the world as of 2016. The world has proven reserves equivalent to 46.6 times its annual consumption levels. This means it has about 47 years of oil left at consumption levels and excluding unproven reserves. 2061 to 2071, oil reserves will be extremely low. When we look at global leader transitions, the oil industry was already struggling before the pandemic struck, with a weakened global economy, decreasing demand for energy, and flooding the market with cheap fuel. As the pandemic gripped the U.S. economy and demand for fuel plummeted, Exxon announced in March of 2020. We saw this in October of 2020. Exxon announced in March that it would cut expenses by 30%. So it's that next era of energy coming in. So when we look at pandemic, the slowing in the travel, it's to reduce the barrel consumption from 5,000 barrels a day down to 4,000. So when we look at the northern hemisphere and how 2020 reduced the consumption, is because we need more barrels for infrastructure packages. So it's demand versus supply. America is number one, where we rely on oil. So it's about sustainability. With winter ahead, cost increase use. Fix highways, rebuild bridges, upgrade ports, airports, and transit systems. Demand versus supply. Will the plan work? Deliver clean drinking water, a renewed electric grid, and high-speed broadband to all the Americans President Biden's plan will eliminate? We'll see. Time tells. To build cost oil, requires labor. So to build world-class transportation infrastructure, fix highways, rebuild bridges, and upgrade ports, airports, and transit systems. Vaccine or no job, labor demand crisis. Yet we need to repair our roads and bridges. 173 total miles of our highways and major roads are in poor condition, as well as 45,000 bridges. When you look at delays, it says that it causes the average American motorist, they're forced to pay $1,000 every year in wasted time and fuel. Lower wages, higher oil prices. Eliminate oil vehicles. Also a new issue. To invest in reliable passenger and freight rail service. When we look at rail, the rail lacks multi-year funding stream to address deferred maintenance. We look at chip shortage and limitations. The chip shortage definitely has a way to play on the vehicles. They're trying to create good jobs electrifying vehicles. Yet, we have to compete with China on this. So oil to make the EV work. We need the grid to work for electric vehicles to work. If you have time, go on whitehouse.gov. Check out the fact sheet for the American Job Plan. Take a good look and read through it from March 31st, 2021. Look at the statements that were released and check it out for yourself and see what it says. Railway stocks. If you don't drive, if you're into EV, and if you think that oil's going to get costly, rail might be intriguing to you. So watch the moves made ahead. The House votes to lift debt limit, but only for a few months. A redo in December will be harder. December 3rd deadlines to continue government funding to avoid a shutdown. Funding limitations, national parks and museums, and jeopardize federal programs. So keep them open or close them up. So I'm bullish on some things like Eagle, EGLE. They have 49 vessels. When we look at windows, they're in a good window between $43 and $54 for an entry point. They launched a dividend policy. So when we look at shipping, EGLE definitely has a bullish bid on my end, where I think that if shipping goes up, inflation and prices continue to rise, they definitely have a good chance. Q3 results in November. So as parts back up, problems continue. The California oil spill. When you look at things, there's things where volcanoes are melting water lines. It's definitely creating havoc in many water supply areas where if the volcanoes are melting water lines, and it's the same with the wildfires. We have this stuff happening all over. So on top of the average pandemic of what's going on in the world, we have natural disasters. We have hurricanes going on down south. we have a continued outlook on inflation. So we look at potential rebounds in shipping prices. The reality is if we keep burning fossil fuels at our current rate, it is generally estimated that our fossil fuels will be depleted by 2060. When we look at things, we're going to have technical difficulties. So it's going to be a please stand by in 2022. We have to see what really comes out of everything in 2022. We have the increased borders. We have policies that were put in place that are now being reversed, and they're continuing to turn policies one way to another way. We're forcing government shutdowns. We're looking at crypto. We're looking at the US dollar to the Canadian dollar to China. We're looking at chip shortages. Right now we have a major supply and demand issue. We're going to be looking at food shortages. We're looking at if the government shuts down, do they shut down Social Security? Where is everybody going to get their money? People that need their money, are they going to raise their taxes? We're dealing with a slew of problems. So in 2022, I personally think that we're going to be facing some technical difficulties around the whole globe. It's still a worldwide pandemic. We have vaccinated zones, unvaxxed areas. You have your green card so you can go in, and you have your shots. Can you go into this shop? Can you go into that shop? So at the end, it comes down to the elite. Everybody have a good day and continue your week and have a great Wednesday. Try to keep a positive outlook. Think about where you are, because we're living in 2022. We're living in the 2023. Right now, we're setting the stage for our future.